Welcome to Wordpath, the show about Oklahoma Indian languages and the people who are teaching and preserving them. Our show topic tonight may seem a little goofy at first. What we're going to do is we're going to begin by working a word puzzle from the newspaper. Some of you may have seen this item called Celebrity Cipher, which occurs in the Norman transcript in the classified section. It's a kind of code game where each letter that's written here, it looks like gobbledygook, but each letter is a substitute for some letter of the English alphabet, and the task is to decode it so that you get back to the secret message, which is a famous quotation or an interesting quotation from some sort of celebrity. So we're going to start out by solving one of those in English. But before we're done, I hope that I will have demonstrated 2 points. One, all of us know a lot about the structure of our language, at least on a subconscious level. And two, the structure of each language is different. So let's start by playing the game from the Norman transcript, the Celebrity Cipher. Okay. All right, let's see. First of all, they always give you a clue at the beginning of the puzzle. Here it says E equals G, and that's kind of a freebie. We know that any E in here can be translated into a G. Let's find an E. Here's one. So we already have one letter. Are there any more E's? No, that seems to be it. So now we have to figure out what all of these other letters stand for, and some kind of secret message will be revealed. How on earth do we do this? Well, one thing is that I play these a lot. I do them almost every day, and I've noticed the kind of strategies that I use, and they involve my knowledge of how the English language works and how English spelling works. So there's certain facts I always look for right away. I always look through and see if there's a single letter word anywhere in here. Because it just so happens, and I know this, that in English there are only 2 words that consist of one letter each, the word I and the word So here's one right here, this M. That M must stand for either, I'll make a little note to myself here, M is either A or I. Another thing I often look for at the beginning is any kind of contractions. Here we have an apostrophe, presumably that's a contracted word, and here we have another one. Now, contractions in English are usually, they usually involve an apostrophe S. If there's only a single letter after the apostrophe, it's got to be an S or a D or an M in the word I'm, but these are longer than that. So this would have to be an S or a D. The other thing that it could be is a T if you have a negative word like can't, won't, don't, wouldn't, couldn't. Let's see, C-O-U-L-D. Couldn't be couldn't or wouldn't. They're too short for that. They're too long for can't or won't or don't. So I'm going to assume that this Y and Z equal either S or D. It's either Y is S and Z is D, or vice versa probably. So we have a couple of bits of information to go on now. Let's see. Now we have, let's see. Of course, after the dash at the end is the author of the quote. And when you have something in parentheses like this here, it's usually something like, oh, it might be abstract artist or pirate's picture or something like that to identify who the person is. And then these last 2 words would be the person's first and last name. So very often I look at a word here and think this might be, this word might end in IST or in ER. You know, a word like picture or artist or something that identifies a person's profession often ends in either ER or IST. So I'll try to keep that in mind. Okay, we have some long hyphenated word here. That's pretty unusual. I don't know what to make of that. We have a couple of 2-letter words here, and there's several things that those could be. At, by, to, in, on. There are too many possibilities to do much with that right now. Then we've got a 3-letter word here, which is often are or the. Those are the commonest things that a 3-letter word will be in these puzzles I've found. But we have a lot of possibilities. So let's go back to some of our notes here. We said M was either A or I, so let's just choose one and go with it. Let's see where else the M's occur here, and knowing what we do about English, see if one seems more likely. It could be either A or I. Let's see, if it was the word then the next word, rather than and, the next word should start with a consonant, which it does because we have this G, so it could be a, or it could be I, it could be something I graded something, or I gave, or, you know, that's too long for gave, but it could be an I plus a following verb. I think it seems, this is a hunch, I think it's more likely that we have an A here, so let's try M equals A, and let's replace all the M's with A's. Here's one, here's one, here's one. Let's see, I don't want to miss any. Here's one down here. And here's one here. Okay. Now following this A in the word that may name a profession or something like that, I suspect it will, we have a double letter. And we know in English that both vowels and consonants can be doubled because you have words like meet, M-E-E-T, and you also have words like apple, A-P-P-L-E. But if we already have a vowel at the beginning of the word, we can be sure that G is some kind of a consonant. So I'm going to make a note of that over here. We don't know which one yet. Let's see, we said either Y was S and S was D or vice versa. Maybe we'll go back and try one of those. Let's see. This could be something like, let's see what we can figure. We have an A in this word. We could have just about anything before or after. Following this G, we'll have either an R or an L or a vowel. Let's see. Here we have a three-letter word beginning with a Z. We said Z was either D or S. If Z was D, is there a three-letter word beginning with D and having a double vowel after it? Something like dee, do, da. I don't think so. I can't think of one. So I'm going to make the assumption that maybe that Z is the S and the Y is the D. Let's try that. Z is S and Y is D. And let's just, assuming that, let's fill in all the Y's and Z's. Y is D, Z is S. So here we have a D, Y is D, and Z is S. Another D. Two more D's. Y and Z we're looking for. Another D. Now this puts me on my, this makes me wonder for a moment here. Let's see. We have a D after an apostrophe. It's just that there aren't very many two-letter words ending in D. We have the id as part of one's human consciousness. We have an ad in the paper, but something about so-and-so ad, this doesn't look quite right. It could be a proper name, Ed so-and-so had, possibly. This isn't really for English, this is looking like an awful lot of D's to me. Let me just think about this another minute. Now this YB could be the word do. That's the only two-letter word beginning with a D, I believe. I'm starting to doubt this Y business. Let's go just catch the Z's first. Here's a word that ends in Z, and we're going to say that's an S. Z was S, we decided. Let's get the other Z's. Here's a three-letter word starting with Z, and I'll bet you that would be C. What else could it be? It's got to have a vowel in it, either A, E, I, O, or U. A, I, and U are never doubled in English, so it would have to be either Sue or C. It must be C. So we're going to say T equals E, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm not quite sure about these Y equals D's. Let's finish with the Z's. Here's another S after an apostrophe, which is very common in English. Z is S. Z is S. Here's another S, and another S at the end of that word. Looks good for the Z's. Let's say that's probably correct. I'm not quite sure about that Y. What else did I say that could be? Contractions sometimes end in a T. Otherwise, they're usually there's a double L, but we want a single letter here in this contraction. Or a VE, but that's two letters. I think conceivably that could be a T, but I thought I had eliminated all of the not contractions. Let's see. We've got all of our Z's taken care of. Let's work with things we know. When you get stuck, it's best to find something you can do. We said T is undoubtedly E because we had the word C here. Let's fill in all the T's as E's. There's another E, another E, 2 E's here. I wonder what that long word is. More T's. Here's a T. Oh, maybe it could be there'd have, no? Okay, let's go back to the T's. An E here. Here's a word that's probably consonant A, consonant E. We have lots of words like that in English, like cake and bake and made and lots of words. Here's a G-E something something word. More T's that are E. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. Here's one. All right. Now this, I was saying NBL could be R. Frequently a 3-letter word in a quote is going to be such, men are this way or women are that way or books are good, the arts are great. They're often, R shows up a lot in these sort of quotable quote things, but this wouldn't be an R probably because the previous word does not end in S, so it's probably not a plural. You wouldn't say art are, you would say arts are. So we think this is not the word R. Besides, we already have said T is E, so that can't be R. It's got to be a 3-letter word without an E in it, and it can't be plural if it's a verb. What else do we know? D something E, that letter here could be an R. That's the main thing it could be, I think. D can be followed by a vowel, but you have D blank E. Let's see, could it be drind? I'm still kind of wondering about that, Y equals D. Could it be a T? Then we would have trendy. No, let's see. If it was T, this word could be it or at. No, not at, because we've already used up the A. It could be it. And then X would be I, and Y would be T. But how are we going to get a contraction here with a T? Oh, of course, doesn't. I overlooked one. I'll bet you, let's say Y equals T. I thought I was about to get stuck for sure on this. Let's say Y equals T, and change all these D's to Y's. All these D's are Y, I'm sorry, not Y's, T's. Y equals T. So T, T, T. Maybe this is a number, something 3. Now I'm beginning to see something. And it, probably, let's go ahead and make X equals I at the same time. X is up here, nope. We're looking for X and Y. So this is a T. And I missed a Z here, which is S. X and Y. X, let's see, X is I. We're going to put an I here. Y is T. Now it's starting to look like something. Y is T. Y is T. Y is T. Y's and X's. Here's an X, which is I. Y is T. Y is T. Y is T. No X is there. X and Y, X and Y. Here's an X, which is I. Another X, which is I. A Y, which is T. So this could be a last name like Vitali. Who knows? Okay, so this could be, I don't know what that word would be. Maybe 23. The number 23 might work here. It. And I was saying that if on the end of this contraction we have a T, that means it's one of those negative contractions like wouldn't, couldn't, and so forth. And I think, therefore, the thing before the apostrophe must be an N. Let's go ahead and say G equals N. We said it was a consonant. Now we know which one it is, because that's just how contractions work in English. So let's go ahead. We could go ahead and make that doesn't, I'll bet. But let's go ahead and first start with the G's so we don't skip over anything. Every G should become an N. Here's one. We said that word might be 20. That looks good for that. There's an N. Here's another one. Genius, I'll bet, is that word right there. G-E-N-I blank S. Okay, G's are all N. G's are N. Here's another one. This could be a word like prevent or something. G's are N. Another N. A lot of N's in that word. Okay, and let's say this is doesn't, because it looks like it is. F and B would be D and O respectively. I don't know what other word that could be. So F, B equals D and O. Let's go and get those, F and B. So here's an O. F and B. I already got that one. Here's a B, which is O, and we already knew that word was two because there's only one two-letter word beginning with T in English anyway, so that B surely is O. Any more F's and B's? Here's an F, which is a D. F and B. Here's a B, which is O. Here's a B, which is O. Ah, this must be announcer. I said there's a high likelihood that this is an ER word because we're identifying what sort of person this is. Anyway, let's look for any more F's and B's. This F would be a D. What first name starts with D-I? Well, Dick would be a good guess. F's and B's. I think we got all the F's and B's. Okay, so something, maybe the word 23. It doesn't take a genius. We start to be able to see things when you get this many right. Okay, so let's say H equals K and P equals U. H equals K and P equals U. P equals U. H and P. Okay, U-N-D-E, that must be the word under. Let's see. P equals U, so that really makes it look like that word's announcer. H equals K, that really makes it look like that word's Dick. P equals U. Okay, so let's say S is C and L is R, so we have announcer. S and L, so that would be or, for probably. We want S and L's. Here's an L. That does make that look like 23 even more than it did before. Whoops, I left out a Y equals T here. S equals C and L equals R. And that is under, which we already pretty much knew. L equals R. S equals C, that must be percent. L equals R. Sports announcer, I'll bet. Okay, so let's say R is P because we've got sports announcer. Do we have any other R's? Here's one, that is percent. Now it really starts to fall into place. R equals P is what I'm looking for now. Don't have any more. Okay, sports announcer, Dick. S is C, I missed that C. Dick, I don't know this person's name, but maybe we can get to it. For 23, for 23. Well, let's just assume this is 23. I don't know what else it could be at this point. So K is H. No more K's. So if this is 23, we must have J is W and V is Y. J is W and V is Y. Okay, so I'm not quite getting the beginning of this quote. It doesn't take a genius to see that's maybe I'm going to get stuck. There's two letters missing here and they're both the same letter. So we can go B, C, D, E, F, 50, probably the word 50. N is F, I'll bet you. Let's see if we got any more N's we can fill in. The word for here, that's a three-letter word ending in OR. We pretty much knew that already. Something for 23. It doesn't take a genius to see. That's under 50. That's under. Oh, okay. K equals H. I missed one of those. Doesn't take a genius to see. That's under 50%. Sports announcer, Dick, somebody. Well, I'm going to have to quit because we're running very low on time. Let me move away from this puzzle. We almost got the whole thing. And let me go back to the set for just a second. Well, as usual, we seem to be running out of time. I didn't quite finish that one. Maybe some of you at home got it already. I never quite got that first word on there. But we've already gotten the gist of what that quote was about. And how did we get there? We started with just one clue of one letter. And the rest of it was kind of a guessing game based on what a linguist would call phonology and syntax. In other words, what is the normal sequence of sounds in English as represented in written English? And what is the normal sequence of words so that we know if we have a word like or and, the next word is going to be a noun. That helps us to make guesses like that. So the permitted sound sequences of English and the permitted part of speech sequences, otherwise known as grammar, help us make these guesses. Now, not everyone is a linguist, and lots of people that aren't linguists are quite good at this kind of puzzle. So how do they do it? I think they must have some kind of intuitive, unconscious knowledge of the structure of English. And all of us have on some unconscious level a knowledge of the structure of our language and this kind of information. We don't all access it in the same way. We're not all equally good at puzzles like this. But having done this and demonstrated something about language structure that we all can know, even though we may not be linguists, and can use in a fun puzzle like this, would it also work for an Indian language? Well, of course it would. In fact, with the help of a friend of mine, I've come up with a briefer quote in Comanche, and let's see how far we can get through that puzzle, just to give you an idea of how the same kind of guessing process goes on, based on the structure of the language, but that the structure of Comanche is different from English, so your guesses are going to go in different directions. Let's go back over there and try that. Well, let's see now. As before, we're going to begin with a little clue here. So we'll get a freebie here. It says X equals barred U. There's a letter called barred U in Comanche, and it's pronounced There's also a regular U pronounced oo. So we know we have the sound here everywhere there's an X. Here's one right here. We're going to write barred U. Not a very pretty barred U. Do we have any more? Yes, one more. Okay, now what else do we know? Do we see any contractions here? No. Actually, contractions are not used in Comanche. We do see a one-letter word, and that's another place where I like to start because usually in a language there aren't very many one-letter words. In English we have just A and I. In Comanche there are just two. One is the word oo, which is a pronoun, meaning he or she or it, and another one is the word meaning your. But we already have X representing the barred U. So this has to be either a U or a barred U. Therefore, I'm going to say M equals U. X equals barred U, M equals U. So let's put a U here. M, 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 M. Here's another one. Let's see here. Let me look at this for a minute now. Here, after the long dash, we have the author's name. And you'll notice something funny here. I kind of, this is going to be a dead giveaway, actually. But when you see something deliberately shown to be a small letter as the second letter of a name, and in this kind of way where we have capital V, little u, big U, there's a pretty good hunch, and this is not a Comanche name, but it's a name that Comanches have, that it's one of those MC names. And in fact, if it is, this would be MC and another C. And I know a well-known Comanche woman named McClung. So let's see, MCCLUNG, that would fit. Let's see what happens if we do all of that in the interest of trying to hurry up here. And that is such a distinctive pattern for a name. If that's the case, then we've got a lot of things we can fill in. All the V's are M. I guess we don't have any other V's. The U's are C. Here's one. The O's are L. Okay. Let's see. Well, we're almost out of time. And I'm sorry, I've just realized there's some kind of a typo in here, because the McClung person I know is named Lucille, and we have an extra letter here that's not supposed to be there. I messed up on my prop here. Lucille McClung is the name of this person I'm thinking of. And I guess I'm just going to have to pop right to the answer here. The other one, by the way, I really was working in real time. This one I already know the answer to, and let me just tell you, and we'll fill them in. This says, na u nahapkati. Kati. There's a double letter, which in Comanche is always going to be a vowel. That was going to be one of my clues if I didn't have to hurry up so much. Na u nahapkati. Dawe. And another thing that we know here is that in Comanche, unlike English, the verb is usually at the end of a sentence. And we have an exclamation point that could indicate that we're telling somebody to do something. That's a convention that people often use. So this is the verb telling somebody to do that. And in fact, nahu nahapkati tawe is something that Lucille McClung is quite famous for saying. And it means, the loosest and best translation I could give is, tell it like it is. So that's tell it like it is in Comanche, a quote of Lucille McClung, and I'm sorry about this error here. I paused when I saw that extra letter. I thought, whoops, something went wrong. But you get the idea. Knowing something about the Comanche language, you can work these puzzles a lot better than if you don't. And what you know, the technical term for that is phonology and syntax. But every speaker of a language knows this stuff. A linguist knows it in a more conscious way, but everybody knows these things, otherwise they couldn't speak the language. So, let's go back to the set and say good night. All right, so what have we learned here? I'd like to make kind of 2 points. One is every human language has this kind of pattern that can be made use of in a fun game like this. But you know, it really is the task of the language learner to become aware of the patterns in the language they're studying by listening for them. A second point, think how hard it would have been to solve these ciphers if they just consisted of a single word, if the quote was a single word like succotash or balderdash or non-smoking or something like that. It would be much more difficult because there are so many words in a language, but when you see a longer string of words structured together in a whole sentence, the possibilities become more restricted because the sentences also have structure. So the fuller the quote is, the more you can see its overall shape and take clues from that. It's the task of the language teacher to present the language in a full enough form and with enough repetition that its patterns can be observed.
Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita. Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita. Na hene yo hene, na hene yo hene, ana magwana kita, wa pene manaone kita.